20th meeting of the Finance Committee. First, do we have any public comment?
No, sir, we don't.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, the first item is the minutes. Oh, you want to do a motion to? Yep.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just want to note that unfortunately Mr. Watson is not able to join us today, so I'd like to make a motion that we add Mr. Ford as our on our committee this afternoon.
All right. There's a motion, and I'll second it. All right, and we're in favor?
All those in favor, yeah. Perfect.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. And then we also need a motion to excuse Commissioner Watson.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, now we'll get on to the other stuff. All right. All right, the first item is minutes from the October 16th meeting.
Motion to approve minutes as submitted.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, great. All right, item number 2 is the workman's compensation annual renewal. Gentlemen?
Yes, so we have Mr. Jeffrey Singletary from Teamwork Services, our HR provider, and Jarrett Bridges from Turner and Associates here with us to discuss our workers' comp renewal for the year. Now I'll turn it over to them.
Good afternoon, y'all. We typically run this format every year, so I'll kind of go through it and really explain the reason for the variances, et cetera, this year. So if you look, the 2024 spend for workers' comp, based off of renewal payrolls, which is 8.3 million in wages, is 248,777. The renewal this year is 268,147, which is basically a 7.79% increase. The renewal is strictly related to this experience mod factor that we've been dealing with for about 3 years, and I will have good news at the end about next year for 2026. But we'll go on a deep dive in that in a minute. But we are peaking at our top due to our losses at 1.78. So it's moved up 20 points from a 158 last year. If y'all stroll down a little bit, what does that really mean in cost-wise is obviously you have a base rate by class code based off the wages that go into it. And then below the line, you start having credits, and then you have the drug-free credit, deductible credit, but you see the experience mod. And what I want you guys to see is the experience mod of 1.78 impacts the cost by $163,000. It should be, if we had no losses and a credit mod, this meaning below a 1, this would be a credit. But because of our loss history, we are paying basically 163 on top of the normal base rates that are charged. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll show you the loss history in a minute. The one awesome thing, we've used national liability and fire now for 3 years. I've been involved with this commission since it started. This is our 3rd carrier relationship we've had. We've been with national fire and liability for 3 years, so this will be the 4th year. We have had 2 years of really tough losses. This year has been going great, but we're not done yet, right? They give us 15% scheduled credit on top, and they gave us that last year. So they are rewarding us for a good year of performance. They rewarded us last year, but it really helps kind of control the cost. Does that make sense? So there is some credit applied here. So that's where the 268,147 number comes in. Does everybody understand that?
What causes the change in the mod from 1.58 to the 1?
Great, and that's what I'm about to show you. That's a great question. So on the next slide, I'll show you the components of what causes that. So this is a snapshot historically of total losses, number of claims, the premium paid in, and a loss ratio. Loss ratio, not to get too nerdy, is losses divided by premium. Insurance companies see anything 60% and up as a loser. There's 40% of a fixed cost. They're gambling on the 60% to make money, and if you breach 60%, those years technically lose money for an insurance company. Now, Commissioner Ford, if you look, this year highlighted, these 3 years, 21 to 22, 22, 23, 23 to 24, are what is on our experience mod. They give you a 1-year buffer, and it makes sense. We're not done with this year yet, right? It's amazing, $2,907 in claims. But last year we had about 45 or 50 at this point, and some of the claims grew due to the injuries, et cetera, or we had situations where we had claims kind of in December, right? So an experienced mod will never take the current year you're in. They give you, because these losses haven't really developed, they take the previous 3. So there's kind of a hangover effect to it. And you're paying on your mod for the 3 losses that are driven back. So this is in the 1 hole, the 2 hole, and the 3 hole. Why did it go up? Great question. Last year, we had a 44,198 year, a 583 and a 164. We traded 186 for 44 in losses, and that's what caused it to increase. Now, we can look at this, and I've tracked, these are our historical mods dating back to inception. You can see that we're at our high point, and it makes sense. Again, it's got that 1-year lag. So this is, we've got to finish strong, because I can tell you next year, we'll lose the 583 loss year, and if we pick up 2907, the mod will go to a 1.11 if it holds true, which is a 67% drop.
We had
Auto accident.
2 large claims, one of which, the bulk of which was an auto accident.
Single car.
Single car auto accident, employee blacked out and ran off into an oak tree on St. Simon's. Yeah. It is? Okay, so the back injury, he has multiple surgeries involved with that one so far. So,
So we have a situation
So it's
where
like a smoothing method, just like we do that with the pension over a 5-year period. So you take the previous 3 years of history
Yep.
and combine those 3.
And the thing to note is the experience mod factor has nothing to do with your insurance company. It is not, they all submit data to a NCCI, is the group that formulates these. Anybody that has premium over $10,000 in workers' comp has an experience mod. You can't get away from it.
Right.
It is what it is. So the bad news is we're at our peak at 1.78. We got a $19,000 increase. The good news are the base rates, which I'll show you in a minute, have continued to go down. So the starting points for rates by class have gone down. We still have scheduled credit, which is great. And we're really at the lowest starting point base rates we've ever had in the history. So does anybody have questions about how this works with the losses? I love seeing historical data. To me, it also, it shows you trends. So I can tell you on the average, we have about 13.88 incidents a year. Historically, we've had about $139,000 in losses per year. Historically, we spend about $214,000 in premium per year, and our loss ratio is overall, we have not really, I'd love for that number to be sub 60 in that situation. Some of our largest claims in just the 22 and 23 period. Remember, 21's the really bad year, but these are the most 2 recent ones. A back injury at 96. We fell down the stairs at an aeration base at 63. And then while bursting asphalt with a bar, we had a right shoulder strain at 85. And those numbers might have changed a little bit. These information was sent, I think, the beginning of the month. So any questions over kind of the losses, how it plays into the pricing, anything there?
Crazy shoulder sprain.
Soft tissue injuries are the worst. Backs are even worse. So this kind of reiterated, Commissioner Ford, what you mentioned is in 2024, we had a 1.58 mod. These were the losses on the worksheet. Well, Jarrett, why is 22 different here to there? Well, when the information is sent in, they don't change it. So a year later, luckily to our good, they had budgeted 228 for those losses in the 22 period. They're down to 130. So we just want to hold true to these numbers, get rid of that guy, and pick up that one. Make sense? All right, next worksheet shows a bunch of history. Really, it's the way my brain works is this shows you historically by code, hard to see, but what I want you to see is these are base rates starting in 18. We were in a relationship with Zenith. We made the transition in 22, and you can see 6306 is sewer construction, one of our highest, riskiest codes. Starting point in 18 was $10.64 per 100 of payroll. Fast forward all the way down, we're at 5.78. That shows you the workers' comp market has continued to be soft when auto insurance and all the other lines that you are involved with have probably risen.
Oh, yeah.
Work comp is still doing well, which also shows you why these carriers will still offer credits and stuff even when you're kicking them in the teeth with a little bit of claims. So we basically almost have driven down every year, year over year. If you look at the sheet, from base to base, I'll explain what net is in a minute, but it goes down every single year, which is great. So that's one of the reasons why this cost could be over 300 grand. Now, what this analysis does is it backdates, it takes the payroll we got now, and it gets us to our 268. But I have it applied year over year over year. So Jarrett, what does 8.3 million in wages look like on our rate strategy we had in 18? It would have been 336,000, more than that, with an experience mod of 1.12, way lower. So why is it so different? The rates have continued to go down, which is great, right? The net rate includes your experience mod. It's your out-the-door final cost per 100 of payroll for that class. So it's got a drug-free credit in there, a deductible credit, your experience mod in that. I didn't want to get too deep. I'll put y'all to sleep. But what I wanted you to kind of get is a concept of where the prices are being driven and why it's up to 7.79%. It's strictly based on our performance. We actually have better rates this year than we did last year at the start. So that for us, that's why we're recommending, obviously, to stay with this carrier. They've done a great job. We haven't had any issues on claims management. And they're still giving us what we feel like is the most aggressive pricing in the market for our performance. Any questions?
I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full commission.
Mr. Mayor?
I
He's got a promotion.
Did I say Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, he got a
Sorry,
promotion.
I'm in the thing. Mr. Chair, not Mayor, Chair. I like that.
No.
I know exactly. I
I'll
like
pass
it.
on
I
Mayor.
like it. I like it. I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full commission approve the purchase of workers' compensation insurance coverage with national liability and fire for policy year 25-26 in the amount of $268,148.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or discussion?
No, Jared, I just appreciate the presentation. It was informative.
And
It
I
was
look
good
forward
stuff.
to
Yeah.
next year with the mod dropping,
Yeah.
bringing a reduction. That'll be fun.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, all those in favor signify. Okay, that passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow too.
Yep, see you tomorrow too. All right, this is item number 3 now. This is the Brunswick-Glynn Brunswick 911 Services Agreement for external entities.
Explain that later.
Okay.
But yeah, so this agreement is for us to continue. We've got 10 radios that we use during storm events when we don't have cell coverage on the 800 megahertz system that is utilized by the Public Safety Communications Department that does fire, EMS, and police radios. We've never had an agreement. The Public Safety Communications Department with the joint agreement with Glynn County and the city are going through and cleaning up some of these administrative things. And so this agreement outlines our responsibilities for using these radios and provides for a service charge to be paid to Glynn County for their usage for the maintenance of their system, which is $55 per radio per month or $6,600 annually, which will be paid from the admin services annual operating budget.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission enter into the Glynn Brunswick 911 Services Agreement with the Glynn County Board of Commissioners.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this matter? We discussed this in the earlier meeting. And these are radios that are used in the event the cell phone service is down and are really crucial in emergency situations for our staff. Any other discussion? All right, let's call the question on the matter. All in favor? Passes 3-0. All right, next item is the customer portal for water use management. Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the floor. Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know which way to go with the
Okay,
title
yeah.
there,
Well,
so
Pick a
I'll use
chairman,
that.
that's fine.
Wanted to present to you this afternoon the My 360 portal from Neptune Software. You may recall about this time last year, we were just completing our system-wide change-out of all of our meters. And as part of that change-out, we also had a new meter data management system. The name of that software is Neptune 360. So let me make sure that I make the distinction between those two softwares. The software that I'm presenting to you today is the My 360 Customer Portal. It basically gives the same information that right now only staff can see within the Neptune 360 portal, makes it available to individual customers, and there are a lot of advantages to that. First of all, the alerts that we do see today and that we do share with customers to the best of our ability, those have to be those cannot be tailor-made rather to each individual customer. Commissioner Cook and I spent some time together on this process of what staff does in order to get these alerts sent out, how they're even transmitted to us in the first place by the Neptune 360 software. This is a little bit concerning to me because if a customer has a larger meter, obviously they're going to be using more water. So for us to be able to say, oh, well, that's all right, that's that customer's typical usage, we don't know what that customer's typical usage is, but we have to make assumptions on our side that may result in them not getting an alert that they actually should be getting for the level of usage that they have. So once again, back to this particular software, we've been sharing the alerts to the customers, but the customers have said, hey, is there a way that we can have access to this for our own data? Right now, there's not. The Neptune 360 portal only staff members can see. We can share information with the customers, but they have to go through us in order to recognize their alerts and their challenges. So what we'd like to do is implement this My 360 software and scroll on up here, just give you a couple of highlights on this particular package. Not quite fitting on my screen there. I'll size for me. Thank you. Perfect. That is exactly what I needed. You'll notice that it does say that it can be custom branded, so it does look like the Joint Water Sewer website more so than somebody else's that we've just bolted on. We would not do a single sign-on for this. This would be a separate sign-on, but it is web-based. One of the reasons for that is we're considering a new billing software, a new ERP package. So we don't want to go ahead and hitch our wagon to one particular software only to have to unwind ourselves and do that separately. This is actually managed independently of any of our other software. You see that customers can quickly view a 30-day usage pattern. If you see that one, the trends jump out at you very quickly when you have 30 days of usage in front of you. You can see when the highs are, you can see anything that looks unusual. See the bar there that says that's about the average usage, so a customer can very quickly look and see, okay, something doesn't look quite right, I need to look into this further. And they can drill down from monthly usage, daily usage, down to hourly usage, just like we can in our Neptune 360 software. Again, it allows the customers to create their own customized alerts. If they want to have an alert that they don't use any water at all and they want to know whenever they use any water, this software can do that for them. Right now, we can't. Managing 32,000 customers, we don't have that level of detail that we can drill down and provide that service. This software will. I mentioned that it's web-based, so it can be used on a desktop, a tablet, a smartphone, any device. It will translate across all of those different platforms. And this one, another advantage is you can manage multiple accounts within this one sign-on. Think about for residential customers. If a customer has a domestic meter for their house and an irrigation meter, right now those are two separate accounts that are being managed independently. They can set different alerts for each of those. If you want to know when your irrigation meter is being used during the winter, you can set that alert. That doesn't have to be the same alert that you set for your house. You can set your house alert to a high threshold. You can set it to a low threshold. You can set it, oh, I'm going away for 2 weeks. I want to know if I've used any water in the meantime so I don't come home to a flooded house. You can do that with this software. So again, this allows for more timely notification to the customer. This can be a conservation tool. This can be a cost-saving tool. And we just see a lot of benefits for our customer in relaying that information to them in a more timely basis. So we're asking today that you allow us the implementation of this My360 customer portal at the cost of $36,500. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
This is a completely separate sign-in for customers?
Yes, sir.
What information is the customer gonna have to put in to access this?
The customer will have to put their name exactly as it appears on the bill, or their or their service address exactly as it appears on the bill, and the software will verify against the Neptune 360 information.
Is the 36,500, is that it appears in the motion that that's a training cost. Is that correct? Is there ongoing software maintenance or software licensing?
I can break those costs down for you.
Okay.
It's $25,000 for the annual subscription,
Okay.
$4,500 for the one-time setup fee, and $7,000 for the staff training.
Gotcha. So we would anticipate that we'd see 25,000 annually
That's correct. yes,
after
sir.
this initial
That's
startup
correct.
cost.
And we're gonna track how many people actually use this?
Yes, sir. It gives you engagement. You can see how many people are enrolled. We really want to push this to customers because we've had so many people who have said to us, this would have been so great if I could have seen this, I could have caught this before. The threshold that we set right now is 7 days. We're looking for continuous usage for 7 days before an alert comes across our Neptune 360 for staff right now. So you can imagine in the span of 7 days, a lot of water can be used.
Now, because this is available, are we gonna start backing away from sending notices to customers about they got a leakage, cause they can check it themselves?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's part of the goal of this, is to take that staff time and reallocate that into other functions. Because right now, we could dedicate one person, one full-time equivalent to do the tasks that are being done right now. If we were to do that every day of the week, we've had to scale back. We can't do it every day of the week now.
So when this thing gets implemented, are you gonna send out another notice to all the customers?
We'll do that through a bill mailer and also through our text notification system. We have what we call a podium platform. Right now, we're using that for delinquent bill alerts and also for some of these notifications of the continuous usage. We'll push that message out to customers. We'll put it on our social media, all of our communication channels that we have. Yes, sir, we'll make
And
sure to notify
we've
customers.
discussed, if this gets implemented, if somebody, not obviously, we're not gonna deny a leak adjustment because somebody's not signed up for this, but if they get a leak adjustment, part of the agreement of getting a leak adjustment is you'll have to sign up for this so that you can catch it quicker in the future.
And if they have a leak in the future, it's not gonna be any more
Well,
adjustment.
there may be an adjustment depending on the size of the leak, obviously, but if you catch it in a day or two, the bill doesn't get out of whack like it would if you may not catch it for a week or two.
So some of our other customers, like my ex-employer, they're gonna have to have 700
No.
accounts.
One login can do all those accounts.
That's right. And your former employer, I've actually spoken with them. They're planning on hiring an energy specialist who's going to need tools like this one in order to be able to tell water usage patterns, if something seems like it's out of the ordinary. So they're excited about the potential of this. They're actually going to be one of my test customers when we get to the testing phase.
The old energy guy used to get it from you guys.
Yeah. There's a lot of staff time that goes into managing this right now. There'll still be some staff time to get people logged in and go through the process, but it should continue to dwindle down as more people sign on to the program. And, you know, stuff like this has been available for the power consumption for a while.
Sure.
And so this is very similar to that process there. And of course, as water bills have increased in the last 20 years, it's more important than ever that people are paying attention to their water usage. So
So are they gonna log into the JWC website?
they'll go to,
We'll have a landing page on the JWSC website that will take them to the login for this. So they'll still come through our website, so they'll still have the confidence that it is our product rather. And again, you'll see the branding that looks more like JWSC than another organization. Thank you, though. All great questions.
I just want to say that I've spent some time with Ms. Roberts talking about this, and one of my concerns was getting people to participate, because we're spending the money, and And we have to convince people that it's probably just as important checking on this as if you check on your bank or, you know, something like that. It's just one of the things you should do, particularly if you have an older home that, you know, may be susceptible to leaks. One question I did have on the notification systems. How are those notifications delivered?
Through the My 360 portal,
Yes,
I believe they offer text and email notifications right now.
right. And what would you say to someone that said that, so for instance, if you ask them to sign up and say, well, I don't have internet access at home,
Okay,
and I'm not really, you know, I have a flip phone.
right.
Do we have, what would we say to the person that said
They're
that?
certainly welcome to come down to the office. We have stations set up out here with iPads where they're welcome to come in as frequently as they would like to have that access. Public library is another place for good internet access for those who don't have that luxury at home.
And like I said, I think the key is that getting people on board to realize that how helpful this will be for them, particularly if they have a leak. And we've, over the years I've been here, there's been people with very large leaks that
Yes,
are
sir.
really, you know, their mouth drops open when they get the bill. And this will certainly be an opportunity for them to keep an eye on that and prevent things from, and also, you know, water conservation is an important issue. Even though we're in the business of selling water, conservation is a very important thing with sea levels rising and things like that. So I think this is a very worthy project, and I'd love to see our customers all, you know, embrace it and get on with it. And I don't think we're offering them $500 to get into it, but it really is a benefit for them. And like I say, I think they should look at it, you know, like they check on their bank accounts or other things like that that require regular notifications. So.
Let me ask you
Yes,
this.
sir.
I understand you want to do away with joint water, notifying the people that there are questions with their account.
Yes, sir.
But are we still gonna set some parameters that if we have a meter that's registering for, say, a week or more, that there's heavy water usage, right? Somebody needs to pay attention.
Well, we'll certainly still pay attention to that, but the hope with this would be that the customer would catch it before it got to that point, so it's going to reduce the ones of those we have to follow up with. And, for example, if we've got about, typically when you go in the system, there's somewhere between 700 and 800 that are showing continuous usage. I don't know why that's the number, but that's the way it always ends up. We knock it down a couple hundred, and then a couple hundred show back up. But for people like the hospital, that number is always going to be on there because they use water 24/7. You know, so they'll be able to avoid, you know, getting any messages or anything like that from us. You know, we sent one to the wastewater plant on accident one time. Wastewater plant uses water 24/7. I mean, those sorts of things will eliminate. And ultimately, if we can eliminate 16 hours worth of work a week, and like you said, we could spend a full 40-hour week working on this right now.
Sure.
If we can cut it down 40% that we're sending out, this will pay for itself every year.
Okay.
Commissioner Ford, to your point, I have a little bit of a feeling that we have this information. I feel compelled to share it with the customers. So even outside of this process that we're doing for the Neptune 360 alerts right now, I'll go in a couple of times a week and I'll run what Neptune 360 calls a high usage report. And it allows me to look at customers who have, and I can set various parameters, but what I look for is in the past 24 hours, have you used 4 times your normal usage over the last 30 days with a minimum usage of 1,500 gallons per day? And I'll get a report of those particular ones. Now, if it's a 3-inch meter for a commercial institution, I'm probably not as concerned with it. But if it's LaDonna Roberts at 1703 Gloucester, then I'm probably going to take a look at it. So I will still, personally, will still do those just because I feel compelled to make sure that customers like that are notified. And I've personally made phone calls to some of those customers to make sure they are aware. Had a gentleman who was using 523 gallons of water an hour this week called to make sure. He said, I have no idea what that is, but I will check it out right now. So from a legal standpoint, if Charlie were here, I couldn't say that I'm going to do that on a consistent basis, but I'll do it consistently enough that I believe I will catch the ones that are concerning to you, the very high usage. Will I go in every day and look at the 800 that Mr. Burrows was talking about? I don't see that being feasible.
Oh, no, I understand and I agree. And I actually don't think somebody your level should be doing that.
I appreciate that.
But
it's a personal compulsion, and I acknowledge it. But also to some of the points that Commissioner Cook made, we've been sending out these alerts. So there are tens of thousands of customers already who have gotten the water usage charts. Thank you for this. This is great information. Hey, this visual is very helpful. So I won't tell you that I wasn't trying to do a little marketing in advance by saying, look what you could have if you chose to sign up for this product. So that's another thing that we'll do is we'll look back to those customers who have used it in the past and say, hey, remember the great information you got from this? Remember how you said you wish you had known that in 24 hours instead of 7 days? This is your chance.
now, will this also, when you sign up for this, at the end of the month, if you know they've signed up, will this actually be the bill too?
No.
I'm not sure that I'm,
The bill will not come through the My360 software,
No.
even if they're on
Oh, no,
paper.
sir.
Even
No,
if they're on paperless billing, it will
That's
go to
correct.
their email, but it will not come out of this
this is
software.
strictly to
This
do
is
with your
just
water
strictly
usage.
data, this end of
Right.
it, it's not actually billing part.
It's not the billing part because the billing period is not
Right,
The
doesn't
same as
run.
the monthly period.
not
Monthly,
November
right.
1st to November 30th.
Right.
You know, one of the interesting things with this project, when we started putting the meters in, is we really weren't expecting such large numbers of people, which it's, in the nice term you use, continuous usage, it's essentially a leak, or a toilet that's running, or a faucet that's dripping. And a large number of people really have said, okay, thank you, and that was kind of been it, so. I think we were kind of taken by surprise by that. And I know Mr. Roberts actually took me through the process of what goes on just to notify one customer and to be sure that that's all documented and everything. And it's a very lengthy process to do, and it's the only way to do it manually because this system will actually eliminate that whole process. I mean, it involves spreadsheets and letters and mailing, and a number of people's staff in the front. When you walk through the front and come this way, you can see the lady pulling her hair out there, one of our staff members, because she's doing so many letters, and she's like, you know. But so I think it was interesting. I think the interesting thing is that this would be a great presentation at one of the water conferences about what to expect when you do a meter change out and what you found.
We'll get
and-
Ms. LaDonna to submit that for next year.
Ooh, I like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it really would be a good case study, and I'm sure there's a number of utilities that haven't done this yet. We tend to be a little bit ahead of a lot of them, and it would be really a good information for them because it's been a learning process for us and for the staff, and now we're going to get the customers to get on board with this, and I think it'll be very useful. So.
Well, I have a couple comments. As a recovering IT director, I always like technology and like staying up to date on things. So I'm excited about implementing some new software. I do have one question, and I'm anticipating that we don't have an answer for this question, but I think it would be something good to talk with the company about and potentially explore. One of the needs I see in our community is, especially in Brunswick, is the amount of rental companies that we have, right? So if you have all these rental properties and you have individuals that are leasing that property and they have their own water account, I think there could be some benefit to this software having the property owner being able to track what's happening at those individual properties. I know there's going to be some gray area there in terms of getting access to or seeing numbers from a tenant's bill potentially kind of thing, but I think as a property owner it would be vital for them to be able to see and potentially get some alerts if one of their properties had a leak or a potential leak. And because sometimes I anticipate that maybe a tenant would get the alert and that doesn't get passed on in a timely manner to the property owner, right, in order to fix the solution. So I don't know, again, I don't anticipate an answer today, but I would love for us to kind of think about that loop and if there's some way that doesn't get us into a legal issue.
See me
But
looking
yeah,
at Mr.
exactly,
Donahue, Sherry, yes,
exactly.
sir.
But that potentially we could connect those dots, maybe hide certain information from a software side, but it's like just an address and an amount, or I don't know. But I throw that out there as a potential as we launch this product. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
excited. Yeah.
Thank you, yeah.
And the other point with this software is that it's going to grow and have more features as it goes along. Right now, it's very comprehensive, but I know that and I know that you went to a conference. You were invited to a conference and you with other users here. And I think it will expand and will, they'll be adding features as time goes on, so that'll be helpful, so. All right, any more discussion on this? All right, I think we need to have a motion.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend that the full commission approve the purchase and implementation of the Neptune My360 customer portal and associated staff training at a cost of $36,500. Well, I got one more question after I read that motion, sorry. For the $25,000 for the annual software agreement, does this lock us into a 3-year contract? Is it a 1 year?
No, sir.
Okay, so we would see the 25 every year for approval in the annual
We decided
budget.
not to continue after this year for whatever reason. There's no obligation on our part.
Okay, all right, perfect. I was gonna amend that motion to include that, but okay, we're good. All right,
And of course, that would include any updates automatically in
Yes,
in
sir.
the software and everything.
Yes, sir. There's no activity needed on the utilities part. Neptune takes care of those updates.
Are
through
there any
pushing those out.
limitations on the number of sign-ons?
user limits?
Well, no, sir. They based our pricing on the number of endpoints.
Okay, all right,
So,
all right, so that's already covered then.
yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Passes 3-0.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Commissioner.
doing all your research
Thank
on
you
that.
very much.
Good stuff, yeah.
Appreciate it, yeah. All right, this is item number 5, the 1703 subdivision plat. Mr. Burrows, you want to bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, so we, a couple of years ago, June of '21, we entered into a lease agreement with purchase option with Glynn County for the previous CVS building for the new Board of Elections. At the time, when the property was appraised, the value was $280,000. They have been paying $5,500 per month since June of 2021. We have attached to this is the plat of the subdivision to subdivide the property going through the city's subdivision process. And the way the lease agreement works is the amount that has been paid on the lease has been going towards the purchase price. So upon approval and subdivision of the property, when Glynn County takes deed of the property, they will pay off the balance to the JWSC, which is currently $48,500. The plat was considered during the Facilities Committee, so this is basically just to approve the subdivision plat so that we can get the final payments on the property arrangement. Now, the operating budget does not include rental income in there because we were anticipating this happening. So the rental income we've got to date has just been additional revenue that wasn't included in the budget.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission approve the subdivision plat of 1703 Gloucester Street.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this matter? Yes.
A curiosity question. How come we did it? How come we subtracted what they gave us as a lease, like a buy? Why didn't we just charge them a rent?
That was part of the agreement, understanding it was going to be a paperwork issue and getting everybody together. It was just part of the negotiation at the time that we agreed to do the basically lease to own approach. Being good neighbors.
Just kind of curious, because actually when we bought the building, we were planning on using the rental income from CVS and whoever was
Mhm.
next on future projects.
Right.
Mm.
So it's kind of curious why.
Well, it sat vacant for what, 2 years? We couldn't get any rental interest for a couple of years after CVS left.
Also, I recall the elections department was kind of up against the wall.
They were
about
up
new
against the wall.
regulations
New
about
regulations need new storage
needing
areas.
space, yeah, for people to observe, for recounting ballots and things. And so they really needed to move on getting a space, and it was available and it was close by, so I think it worked out pretty well, so. They got a bargain for sure.
They really got a bargain.
Yes.
I think they put about $800,000 into the building. Don't quote me on that exact number, but that's what I was told.
I know when I walked through the
Yeah.
front door and saw the bulletproof glass, I understand what you're talking. All right, we have a motion and a second. Are all in favor? All right, that passes. Number 3-0. And item number 6 now, Academy Creek influent pumps purchase. Mr. Burrows?
Yes, sir. Last year, we approved the purchase of 2 new influent pumps to Academy Creek, 2 new flight pumps last September. They took until May to be delivered. and they were supposed to match up to our existing bases for our obsolete pumps. They could not make that happen, and so at the September 2024 meeting, we approved a contract with BRW Construction to install new bases and guide rails for all 4 of the influent pumps. The material to install the new bases and guide rails is being provided by Xylem at no cost because they couldn't match up to the existing bases. In the fiscal year 25 operating budget, one of the items listed as a capital purchase line item was to buy 2 more influent pumps for Academy Creek. We use flight pumps, and this is sole source purchase of flight pumps from Xylem Water Solutions. The 2 pump cost is $168,030. The budget amount was $160,000 in the budget, so it's about 5% over budget. But overall, our combined capital costs for the year are under budget for all the capital line items. And so this will close out the capital equipment list that was approved with the budget.
I'll entertain a motion on this matter.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend that the full commission approve the purchase of 2 new flight influent pumps at Academy Creek from Xylem Water Solutions USA, Inc. in the amount of $168,000 and $168,030.
All right. A discussion on this matter. I do have a question. Is there going to be any associated costs on electrical connections?
No, sir. We redid the entire influent electrical system a couple of years ago, and so we have 125 horsepower VFDs included. So everything's already wired up, ready to go. Operating the existing pumps, these are 110 horsepower, no improvements needed on the electrical side.
And we, of the 4, we usually use 2 of them at a time?
Typically, one maintains, and then periods of the day when higher flow, because we do have the diurnal patterns, we'll kick a second one on. And then during rain events, a 3rd and 4th one will occasionally come on, not often. But we rotate each day. If all 4 of them are in good condition, we rotate each day, which is the lead pump, so that we don't overuse one particular pump. That's all done electronically. We don't physically rotate them.
No,
It's all in the system.
I didn't think so, yeah.
I got one more question.
Question.
So what is this EX/FM flight service? So there's a little note in the contract that basically says if we don't have a trained technician to service the pumps or something, but they don't guarantee it. It's on page 2 of 3 under
Yeah,
please
so
note.
Flight has their own repair shops, and we typically send pumps to the manufacturer's repair shop because the supply houses, if we send them somewhere else, they'd have to buy the parts from that repair shop anyway. So they mark the price up drastically. So we're going to send, if we have a flight pump, we send it to Xylem. If we have a Grunfuss pump, we send that to Go Forth Williamson because that's who reps it already because they got to buy the parts from them.
Gotcha.
So that's just standard practice. And, you know, they're not going to warranty work done by somebody else.
Gotcha. So this is strictly talking about work if we were to ship it off. I was just wanted to make sure that we were covered if we were doing like in-house
No, we're good.
maintenance.
We're good with that. But if we send it to somebody else and
Gotcha.
it goes wrong, they're not warrantying that.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Matter passes 3-0. And now we are up to Ms. Wilson, financial restatements for the month end for October 31st.
Rotate this around so I can see you all.
About face.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. We had before us the financial statements as of October the 31st, 2024. We're 4 months into our fiscal year. Our cash and cash equivalents as of the 31st is a little over $3 million, $3,074,851. Construction in progress, it's up to a little over $29 million. So that's a $5 million increase in project expenses this year. So we are moving right along now. All in all, we're in kind of an even glide path, except for a little hiccup I'll tell you here about in a minute. Total assets, $277,383,000.
Icon.
It is. Stand a little more this way. This is 3.5 times our total liability, so that's a good number. At the bottom, under long-term debt, you'll see that our long-term portion of capital lease is 0. We did move forward with paying off the Truist note, that $900,000. So that brought that to 0. And of the Truist note, hold on a second. $899,364.69 was the balance on the principal. A little over $3,200 was interest up to that date. On page 2, again, total liability, 79 million. Again, that's less than our total assets, and that's what we want. I will mention one other thing here at the top of the page for customer deposits payable at a little over 3.1 million. We run a report at the end of each month designating what that to get that total. For this month, we had a little over 15,750 accounts, ranging from a deposit of $5 to a deposit of $23,500 to make up that amount. So I just thought that was a neat little fact to throw in there.
So about half of our accounts are still holding deposits, and you get your deposit returned if it's after 3 years of consecutive payment
Good standing.
in good standing, or 5 years as a commercial account. So, you know, given the growth we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years, that number, we're getting more deposits in than we're shipping out right now,
Right. So
especially the dollar base, because a lot of the old accounts, like you said, had $5 deposits.
we had 5
Versus
of them
$100
right now. It's
deposit.
$5 deposit.
$5 deposit, huh?
5 accounts that have a $5
Wow.
deposit.
Okay.
So, any questions on the balance sheet? On to the summary, revenue. Our operating revenues are over budget by $573,000. The huge portion of that is our interest income. Our total budget for the year is $1 million was the projected for interest income, and we're already a little over $1 million at 4 months in. So we'll take that. The operating, net operating revenue is over budget by 2.7, and I'll get into that a little more later. Before capital fees, a little over 3 million. Capital improvement fees, we're at 575,000 at the end of October, and our SPOS revenues for the 4 months is 615,000. Any question on revenues? Okay. On to page 4. We have our expenses, and there's a little bit of color here on the center section. I will reference you back to page 3. The second portion there is operating expenses. It's categorized by category, and that would just give you an idea of our pension. We did move forward and pay the 1.2 million on the pension. We did have to roll that into our income statement, our expenses, so that put us over budget on pension. So that's going to skew those.
So if you look at that number, 2.2 million of the increased expenses was the transfer from last year's end of year. It's going to show up on this year's expense statement, but that is remaining funds from last year's budget.
Right.
So
And we have
it's going to be there throughout the year, so, you know, keep that in mind.
Right.
if we went back and did an amendment and to bring all of the pension expense in, it's still going to be over budget because we are paying
Right.
for that liability.
Right.
So on the expenses, again, this finance is $284,000. Portion of that is the pension, but also group insurance is, as of the end of October, is $131,000 over the projected budget. And that number fluctuates, we have no control over that. Systems pumping and maintenance, 1.4. And again, huge portion of our employees, the greater portion of,
They got about 30% of the staff works in system pumping, so when you split out that pension cost of that 1.2 million,
they took a hit.
$400,000 or $500,000 of that ends up going towards
Right.
systems pumping.
And also with systems pumping and maintenance, when we paid the lease off
Yeah, they
on
had the capital lease on the VATCon too, so they got like 1.4 million in
got
additional
hit
charges
twice.
from that.
Gotcha.
So we paid it now, but we don't have to keep paying it for the next.
We don't have to keep
number of
paying it,
years.
right? So it'll
Yes.
get more in line as we go further through the
As we
year,
go
but
further
having
down.
the additional $2 million worth of payments
Right.
in 1 month kind of makes the
had
statements
a-
look out of whack for a bit.
We would have had a monthly journal for the principal throughout
Right.
the next 3 years.
Exactly.
If we just swallowed that all this year.
Right.
Operating expenses, For the 4 months, a little over 11 million. Our budget was for 9. Also take into consideration, we did have to deal with some Hurricane Helene expenses the end of September going into the beginning of October.
That is why the Office of the Director is over budget, because all of that got charged to my budget.
Yes, he does get the hurricane preparedness.
Right. Are
account.
do we have an opportunity for some FEMA
We're going to sit in on a call next week or whenever it is. Whenever it is, we're scheduled to sit in on the call on that process. Yes, we'll be submitting for whatever's available.
And again, we have almost 1.3 million in purchase orders, so that contributes to that 3.3 million over budget at this time. And again, that will kind of ease out a little bit as we go on through the year. Any questions on expenses? Okay, page 5 and 6. Supplemental schedule of cash balances. Cash and cash equivalents, a little over 3 million. I would like to note that the payroll account is 490,000. The transfer of the payroll was on October the 31st, so we funded it from the utility revenue into the payroll, and the payroll was not dated till that Friday, which was November the 1st, so we have to put it in, so it's not normally that high.
But that 3 million is net of the 2.2 million of expenses for the pension and the capital leases that we paid off.
Run that by me one more time.
The 3 million in cash equivalents, that's after we paid the 2.2 million.
Yes, because that payment was done, thank you. Yes, that
Yes.
payment was done prior to October 31st. Sorry, my mind was on to something else here. Bond sinking fund, almost 1.7. We will have an interest payment on December the 1st. So we do fund that account for this fiscal year at $245,947 a month. We go ahead and calculate the principal on both the 2017 and the 2021 bond and the interest payments for those, and just allocate it at a 1 month, 1/12. It's easier to
So we
track that
save up and pay one lump sum in December.
for interest.
Gotcha.
Yes, and then there'll be another interest plus the principal payment in June.
Gotcha.
Page 6, the construction fund. We still have a little over 7 million. We did do a draw in October. I'll run it and see if we've got enough to do another draw.
Yeah, there was a $500,000 invoice that got approved this week off that, so.
So I'll have another draw to work on that. So our total cash and cash equivalents, $77,840,454. 51 million of that, a little over 51,600,000 is investments. If you look on page 7, you will see our investments. The total portfolio is a little 51,600,000. 6.8 is cash. 44,773,000 is fixed income. Any questions on the investments?
Dave, I noticed our fair market value adjustments brought us down this month.
Anticipate seeing more of that going forward with the change in administration at the presidency and the federal government, at the federal level. Current expectations are that we will be running much larger federal deficits for the next couple of years, which means more bonds will be issued, and those bonds will probably be at higher rates. So value of current bonds at current rates, we'll see those prices dropping. Of course, month to month, we'll make the fair market adjustment as necessary.
We're still getting the fixed income off of it, it's just the fair market adjustment of the value of the bond.
So the estimated annual income, is that correct in our current portfolio? So we projected in our budget, you said roughly $1 million, and what it's saying here is now we're projected $2 million? To interest, yep, yeah. Include, right. But we're thinking we potentially could double what we estimated in the budget. No?
It potentially without the fair market adjustment associated with that, correct?
The fair market value adjustment will bring that down. We'll receive, what is it, almost $2 million in cash.
Yeah.
the investment, but we'll be writing down
Gotcha. Yep.
how large these, our current bond portfolio increases in market value.
Gotcha.
Hopefully not some.
Hopefully not.
Any other questions on investments? On to page 8. Project cost summary. I've highlighted just a few of the projects that you've probably already covered in the previous meeting, but these are the ones that have already have expenses over $500,000. Just for talking points here, pump station 4105 at $905,000. Canal Road, that's the water production facility. That's the new tank, correct?
That's the new water production facility with a ground storage tank, not the new elevated storage tank.
Okay. That one's at $988,000. Pump station 4044, $560,000. The Dunbar Creek clarifier improvement, $654,000. And the Academy Creek UV installation, $550,000 to date, and that makes up part of that a little over $5 million of new expenses this year, bringing our total construction in progress to a little over $29 million. Any questions on the project report? Page 9 is just a breakdown of where those expenses are being funded from the R&R, the Capital Improvement Fund, or the SPLOST. We've had $378,900, almost $379,000 from the bond projects, and then at the bottom is the split on the capital tap fees. This time last year in 2023, we're at $528,000 on capital tap, so we are running a little ahead of where we were last year. Any questions on project report?
SPLOST collection is still good.
Still good. Good numbers. So I have a few other little facts here. So we are complete with our audit. It's done. These are little facts from the audit. So as part of our MD&A, we do add in there billable services, what they are for. So 2022, we were at 31,261 billable services, addresses. 2023, it went up to 31,885, so that was an increase of 624. So from 23 to 24, we went up to 32,975, so that was an increase of 1,090 from last year. For our infrastructure, we give just a brief overview of our infrastructure. We have 3 wastewater treatment facilities. As of June 30th, we had 309 miles of gravity sewer lines, 134 miles of force main sewer lines. I do not know the difference. One day I will learn. That's a total of 443 miles of lines for sewer, 7,836 manholes, and 171 sewer lift stations. For water, we had 20 water wells, 10 elevated storage towers, 15 water pumping facilities, 560 miles of water lines, and 4,332 fire hydrants.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That was included in the audit report?
Yes, we do.
I have to get my numbers in there.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Do we have like a did you know section on the website where we could list that kind of stuff? I think that would be cool to share with our
We could do something like that.
client,
for sure.
our customers to kind of like, they always feel like we're
Well,
behind.
when
It
I
would be
speak-
nice to share
well,
the
when
scale.
I speak
of
with
what-
community groups,
Yeah.
I go over a lot of that type of
Yeah.
stuff and
Yeah.
kind of share that information. And like I always say that we do a lot of things repetitively, and it doesn't look like we're doing that much each day. But
Mhm.
over a year period, we talk about cleaning sewer lines.
yeah,
You clean 80 or 90 miles worth of sewer in a year, but you're doing a couple thousand, 3,000 feet a day. So it doesn't look like you're doing that much, but it's a big impact. And you start giving examples like, over 3 years we've cleaned enough sewer to go from here to Athens.
right.
You laid it end to end. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of cumulative impact when you do that sort of work.
And all they want to do is be able to turn their water on and make sure it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So a couple of other little things. I know we have two bond issuance, and I know there's always talk of a third. So our ratings in 2017 were AAA from Standard & Poor's and a AA3 from Moody's. These ratings were unchanged from the 2010 revenue bonds, and the rating for the 2021 issue was a AA3 from Moody's. So in the grand scheme of things, from Moody's you have AAA, AA1, AA2, and AA3. So we were fourth in line for them. Standard & Poor's, their strongest is a AAA, which we had. So interesting little fact.
I
And
think when we did the bond rating, the Moody's told us that the really the only thing that was holding us from getting a higher rating is the number of services we have.
Mm.
I think I remember that.
And we also have a debt coverage ratio that is calculated. So the 2017 revenue bonds include a rate covenant containing the requirement that net revenues are at least equal to 1.10 times debt service. And then the current year for the sinking fund. So 2022, we had 4.87, 2023 it went up to 5.24, and for our 2024 number it was 6.82. So for this year it was 6.82 based on total revenues and a 5.54 with the connection fees calculated in.
Awesome.
So good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information.
Stuff.
All right, does anyone have anything more? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.